we are going to take a look at how to add calculations, automatic calculations, to your form fields. We haven't dealt much with calculating to this point, so let's go ahead and do that, and this is a great form to use to set this up. If I scroll down, this is an expense reimbursement form, and it allows the user to plug in an item, add the quantity and cost, and here is the total field. Now within the total field, I want it to automatically total whatever they put in quantity and cost, and then once they've completed these various items, I want it to automatically calculate the total of those. Now, when I do this one, I don't have to wait until they have completely filled out the form to do it. It will happen automatically. So let's set up our first form field here and the calculations we need in order to total quantity and cost by multiplying it. So I'll double click it. We're going to add this to the Calculate tab. And in the Calculate tab for this field, there are a few different pieces available. Now, there's a very simple way to do that, and we can use this to do it. So we're going to choose value is the, and notice it says sum. Now, if I want to get the total cost in this field, what I need to do is take the quantity here and multiply it by the cost here, and that will become my total. So what I'm going to do is use this drop down because it has sum and product. These are used so consistently that we can set that up, and there is my product of the fields. Now what I need to do is choose the fields that I want to calculate. And this is where having nice, clean names for your fields is handy. So I want total 1, and that's the field I'm in. I want that to equal quantity 1 times cost 1. So I select cost 1, and I go down to quantity 1. I'll click OK, and that is my calculation that Acrobat is going to set up for me. So I'm all set now to test this out. Let's go test it out. I'll put a quantity of 1, and let me set quantity of 1. There we go. As far as the cost, I'll put 5.00. Issue a total of 5. Now, if you noticed, let me erase this. You can see how this is activated every time I modify something. So if I put 2 in and tab over to the other field, as soon as I enter something in this field, Acrobat is able to do the calculation. And the reason for that is because this particular method of working with form fields happens automatically. In other words, it's consistently updated as content changes. I don't have to wait until the user moves out of this field or clicks off of it to get this to work. So I'll plug in cost. I'll just put 1 in here. As soon as I move out of the cost field, you can see how it auto updates. That's because I have changed the content in either one of these two that are being calculated. And that's a nice, easy way to do things for calculations, but you can also use this feature if you want to trigger code to change based on some content changing within the field. So instead of using an action and running a JavaScript based on clicking or focus or blur, you can think of this one as this is going to update anytime the content in either one of these two fields changes. So if I move this out and put a 2, as soon as I move out of the fields that are being calculated, it changes. So I don't have to move into total and move out of it, or actually click an on focus event in here to do this. So let's take a look at that again and actually how that was accomplished. So we're in the Calculate tab, and it says value is the product of the following fields. And you click here and pick your fields. So I could add as many as I wanted. Now that's one way to calculate a field, and I'll leave that one as is. Another method is to use a custom script. And that custom script is going to be this one down here in the custom calculation script. And what that's actually going to do is calculate for me using JavaScript. In order to do that, I need to specify the value and change it. So if I'm going to do this type of calculation script, it's a little bit different. So let me select that and I'll click Edit. And what I'm going to do is set up the value of this field being equal to some kind of calculation. So let's do var total equals, and what we want to use is this dot get field. We're going to say which field it is, and it's total 2. Whoops, that's a capital. Total 2 in parentheses, dot value. So what that does is pull out the value of that field. Now that is how I would reference this field. But what I actually want is I want to reference these two fields and multiply them. So what I can do, instead of using total 2 as the field, I can say QTY2. So it's going to get the value of that, and then it's going to multiply it. The asterisk is multiplication. And I'll do that same thing and just reference the other field. Now I'm actually setting this up backwards, but it doesn't really matter for multiplication. So I can modify this. I'll do the quantity first and set the cost on this side. So I'm saying go and get the field, and it's specifically this field that the cursor is in, and go and get that field, quantity 2, I'm specifically naming it, figure out what the value is that the user has in it, and multiply that by the value in the cost 2 field. Then we're going to set the value of this field to that. So then we will set this dot get field dot value. Whoops, we're not doing dot. Oh, that's right. Dot value equals total. And we'll set this one to total 2. So we're taking the value of quantity 2, multiplying it by cost 2, assigning it to this variable, and then we're saying inside the total 2 field, set the value to the one above. Let's test this out. I have this in the calculation script. So notice when I do that, I don't have to set an event. This calculation piece is triggered anytime the content in the fields that are associated with it change. Specifically, quantity 2 and cost 2. So let's test it out and see if I did this correctly. You can see I now have a value of 0 in this field. I'll go in here and I'll set it to 2. This one I'll set to 4. As soon as I tab out, I get 8. So what I did was a custom validation script in this piece instead of an actual calculation through the Acrobat interface. They both come out with the same results. Now the last piece I want to set up is for these fields. I want to set them up, and I can right click and go to Properties, and in terms of appearance, position, those are all set. But in the options area, you can see this is a text field. And because of that, I actually want to set this up to validate or format these fields. So how do I do that? Well, if you select a whole bunch of them at a time, you'll see you don't get that validate or format tab. So I just want you to make note of that. What I'm going to do in this area is format this as currency. Now here is my separator style, but the actual currency piece is down here. So I'll set it to here. This is what it's going to look like. So it's going to have 2 decimal places. It's going to have commas within it and a currency. And now if I close out of that, you can see I'm getting the currency value within that field. So I can do that same thing to my new field. Within the format, I'll go to number, set the currency, and you can see it kept it just like the field before. So I can double click, change it to number, and I'm all set. So this is fairly easy. Now I don't have a value or a calculation script in those yet. So they are not showing up as currency. I'll do these last couple, and there's my number with currency, this one as well, in the Format tab. So what you want to start thinking about is you have a variety of tabs here, 4 of them actually, that you can use to assist you with the content of your fields. And each one of them does things slightly different. So now if I turn on the hand, I have nicely numbered form pieces based on a number. As soon as the user clicks out of it, it gets formatted with the currency for whatever I'm using. So that is adding a calculation script in the one example and a calculation built into Acrobat in the other. 2 different methods for accomplishing the same task. What this method does that's built into the interface is make it very easy for you to add calculations. However, that's all you can do. If within this field I wanted to do some type of additional coding with these values before I did the final value, then I would want to use a custom JavaScript to accomplish this instead of using the built-in features. So it's all based on what you want the field to do as to which route you should go. Right now, both of these are doing the exact same thing, so it really makes no difference. But I think you'll find it's very handy to have the option to add additional coding instead of just relying on that multiplication and nothing else. But that is the Calculate tab within Acrobat and different methods for adding and creating calculation fields within your forms.